This episode of the Vincast is brought to you in part by Different Drop, an online wine retailer specialising in Australian wines of provenance, authenticity and innovation. Different Drop work with a lot of really exciting, a lot of the time young, small producers around Australia from numerous regions, working with lots of different grape varieties. And they're really excited about the kind of wines that the sort of future generations of Australia and Australian wine are producing. A lot of the former guests of this podcast have actually got their wines available on Different Drops. So it's a really fantastic way for listeners of this podcast to support not only the podcast itself, but also the guests who generously donate their time and also share their experience on the podcast by buying some of the wines. If you enjoyed someone's story, then definitely go to differentdrop.com/IntrepidWino. There's a special little section there with some of the guests' wines and more to be added very soon. And as an added bonus, if you would like to put in the code IntrepidWino at purchase, all one word, you'll actually get a 10% discount from Different Drop, and make sure that they know that you have bought it but via the podcast. So thank you very much, Different Drop, for your support of this podcast and also for your support of those fantastic Australian winemakers. On this special bonus episode of the Vincast, I chat with Vanessa Altmann, the winemaker behind Switch Wine, some really exciting organic wines produced from vineyards in South Australia. Hello Vincasters, and welcome to a special bonus episode of the Vincast. My name is James Garesbrook, otherwise known as the Intrepid Wino, and this is a kind of special episode, a slightly shorter episode of the podcast in an effort to get people to head to my YouTube channel and watch some of my YouTube videos, which I call Let's Taste, the concept being that like someone plays a video game and you kind of watch and they comment, called Let's Play. Let's Taste is essentially the same sort of thing for myself with wine. So you watch me open a bottle and talk about my impressions of that wine. So a while ago, I actually sat down with Vanessa Altmann, who is the amazing winemaker behind Switch Wine, and we tasted some of her new release wines, and I shared my impressions on the YouTube channel, and just to sort of give you a little bit more flesh, I guess, to the story, I sat down with her and had a chat about her background and what she's trying to achieve with her wines. So have a listen to this episode of the podcast, and then go to the YouTube channel IntrepidWino, one word, and look for the Let's Taste Switch Wine video, and then you can see what we discussed with the wines themselves. But I hope you enjoy this episode. Stick around to the end to find out how you can get in contact with myself and Vanessa. I'll see you on the other side. Vanessa, thank you very much for joining me in the Vincast studio, as it were. Thank you for making some time on your trip here in Melbourne.
No problems. Thanks for having me.
More importantly, thank you for showing me the new releases. Definitely, guys, if you are interested, go to my YouTube channel, IntrepidWino, and see my impressions, our fantastic discussion about the new Switch wines. But we're going to chat now.
Yes.
So, as you might know, I start every episode by asking my guest if they remember what their first impression or their first interaction with wine that kind of set them on the path of wanting to work in the wine industry was.
Well, my first interaction with wine was probably back in high school when I started to work in hospitality.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Adelaide Hills.
Okay.
Yeah, and
so hospitality, was that in wineries?
No, not so much. I was working in hotels and studying hospitality management as well. And from there, after I completed my study, I realised that I didn't want to work until 3 a.m. anymore. So I got a job in a winery.
And we get up at 3 a.m.
Yeah, but I was working as a PA.
Oh, okay.
I was working as a PA, so in administration in the winery.
Oh, okay. And that was in the Adelaide Hills?
I was in Langhorne Creek.
Oh, right. How did you end up down there?
Well,
That was where the job was?
Yeah, that was where the job was.
Okay.
I was 19 and I started working there. But there wasn't enough work for me, so I ended up doing lab work as well.
Right.
And that was probably the turning point where I really got interested in wine. Running all the tests and making everything change crazy colours. And
Yeah.
like, we were pretty old school with the way we did all the lab analysis.
Yeah. So as far as like high school and studies and stuff like that, did you have any affinity with sciences at all?
I did a little bit of physics.
Okay.
But no, I didn't do any of the chemistry
Right.
that I needed to do.
Okay. And so what sort of on-job training did you do as far as working in a lab?
Well, we had the book. We had the laboratory Bible, as we'd call it. It's basically instructions of how you do routine analysis on wines.
Yeah.
But yeah, after a year or so of working in the winery, in the lab, my employer sent me to study it full-time or part-time at Charles Sturt Uni.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I moved into the role of trainee winemaker.
There you go.
Then.
So it was a pretty interesting opportunity. And so you were studying at Charles Sturt by distance?
Yes.
But you'd go up for residential school type stuff?
Yeah, so we'd go up, it seems so long ago now, but I think it was twice a year. We'd go up for blocks of residential school, and then just do our study in between time.
Okay. How did you find studying winemaking with Charles Sturt, particularly doing it by distance, considering that you were kind of learning stuff on the job as well?
Well, I think that's the best. Well, for me, it was definitely one of the best ways to learn winemaking was to be able to be making the wine while I was studying. The essence of what goes into making the wine, basically on a molecular level. So, yeah, for me to have that hands-on approach coupled with theory was certainly the best way to go.
So you'd be in the winery and you'd do something and then you'd go home and start studying and start reading the book and go, oh, that's why it does that.
Yeah, exactly.
I sort of had that experience too, like when I was doing my master's in wine business by distance with Adelaide Uni. I was at the time I was working in marketing at Domaine Chandon. And so, I'd be reading about stuff and go, oh, okay, so you can apply the theories and the reasons why you do, or that's why it's called that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's great. It just puts it all together. So.
Yeah, and then you start putting it into the job as well.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So definitely uni took 6 years part-time.
Yeah.
So by the time I was finished that,
Were you still at the same winery?
Yeah. So all at Temple Bruer.
Oh, cool. So you've basically been at Temple Bruer
my whole career.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
So whilst you were studying and working at Temple Bruer, did you get the opportunity to travel around much? Did you go and visit other wine regions or anything like that?
Only within Australia, but I have never actually done a vintage anywhere else but Temple Bruer. So
where else would you like to do it? Do you have any kind of dream regions or
I think
countries?
Because I started Switch Wine basically the year I got finished uni.
Yeah.
It really has been all-consuming in terms of my creative energy, and all of my input has gone into that little brand that I'm started up. So there hasn't been a lot of space to be able to venture past, into other regions to do other vintages. But maybe in the future, Europe would be probably on the list, I think. So
France, Italy?
Either or.
Spain?
Yeah.
Because
I'm not fussy. Hey.
You're working with great varieties from lots of different parts of Europe. So tell me about Temple Bruer. For those who aren't familiar with it, I think my first interaction with Temple Bruer was when I was working at King and Godfrey, and we had some of the preservative-free wines. And so, but tell me what's Temple Bruer all about?
Well, I suppose we're a certified organic winery based in Langhorne Creek. A large sort of significant part of our production now is preservative-free winemaking.
Right.
So that's pretty exciting. Like in terms of winemaking, I really like preservative-free winemaking because I always think you have to create a really balanced wine in the year of vintage to release it in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
And that, not having the opportunity to age a wine out in barrel means that it's got to be delicious while you're fermenting it.
Mm-hmm.
So you've really got to sort of pay attention and make sure you press things off at the right time. And, to me, that's even more challenging than making a non-preservative wine.
Mm-hmm.
Making a preservative wine, I should say.
How long has Temple Bruer been around for?
They think they started late 70s.
Okay.
That was when the first vineyard was planted.
So is it still the same owners?
Yep.
And
David Bruer, yeah.
So what was the idea? What did David kind of want to achieve? Did he start with kind of an organic idea, or if that kind of existed back then?
Organics. He converted the vineyard to organics in the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm. So at that time, he was what you'd consider him to be an early adopter, I guess.
Yeah, early adopter, and for him, it sort of came out of welfare for our planet. So he wants to take care of our planet and also the staff who work in the vineyard and who make the wine. He definitely sort of wants to look after us, and that's
not
expose
to
them,
chemicals and stuff like that. Yeah, okay.
And so that's just the path we took.
Right.
So,
why did he decide to plant a vineyard in Langhorne Creek?
I don't know, actually. Well,
I would have thought that then it would be. Was there some incentive to plant vineyards there?
No, but he did start planting, the Cabernet, Merlot, Petit Verdot.
Right.
So I think he wanted to create those types of wines and thought the region was well suited for that. But yeah, that's as much as I know.
Was the vineyard for business reasons? Did he want to grow grapes and sell them, or did he want to make wines? Or not sure.
I mean, yeah, I think the ultimate game was to make wine.
It wasn't a hobby farm, though, was it?
No, it wasn't a hobby farm.
Okay, it was a business choice.
Yeah.
And the conversion to organics would have been interesting. What's the Langhorne Creek region like as far as the weather conditions and climate and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a few challenges. Powdery mildew would probably be the biggest one. Downy mildew also. But it's a pretty forgiving region in terms of organic viticulture, so it's quite doable there. And we've also got vineyards in Eden Valley. They can be a little bit more challenging. It's a bit dewy in the mornings, so yeah.
So how does working organically kind of help? I guess if you're not using any kind of herbicide or fungicide or anything like that to protect the vines in those kind of conditions, how would working organically kind of help?
Yeah, well, certainly what I've seen across the vineyards that I interact with is that organic vineyards have a natural resistance to any sort of onset attack from powdery or downy.
Yeah.
They're sort of just resistant to it, and definitely it doesn't impact the fruit as much as what I see other vineyards, although most of my experience is with organic vineyards.
Of course.
So...
what was it like kind of working as was it junior or assistant winemaker?
Trainee
winemaker.
Yeah.
Was it a decently sized winemaking team?
No, we're a very small team.
Okay.
So I was working under David Bruer as the winemaker, so trainee winemaker. Yeah. So
he said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Now you go and do it.
Yeah, pretty much.
You had to do all the legwork.
Yeah, pretty much. That was it. So.
And so you talked about sort of starting switch when you kind of finished, when you got your degree.
Yeah, so when I got my degree, I suppose, I wanted some more autonomy in the wines I was making and what I wanted to achieve, making different styles of wines as well.
Your own creative outlet.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I started Switch. And I also wanted to start a label that sort of, I suppose, supported my views on the environment and organic, not only organic grape production, but also like organic food and sustainable food.
Yeah.
So that's probably what led me to start Switch Up.
Do you kind of do the organic sort of stuff as far as the food you source as well?
Yeah. Yep.
You're not vegetarian, are you?
Pescatarian.
Pescatarian,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, but at home we eat veggie. Yeah.
Me too now. My girlfriend. So how did you start with Switch? Like, what did you start small and then start adding stuff?
Tiny. I started with 1 ton of Adelaide Hills Pinot.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and what was the first wine you made?
2010 Adelaide Hills Pinot.
It was just Switch.
Just Switch Pinot.
Where's the name Switch come from?
Well, Switch is about, I suppose it's a play on the way, I don't own any vineyards, so the manner in which I chop and change around what wines I want to make. But also Switch comes from creating labels that sort of maybe sort of allow consumers to question certain environmental aspects. Like the Chardonnay label is based around energy. So looking at aspects of where we've come from, where we're going in terms of energy.
Yeah.
And all the early Switch labels were based around different themes, like environmental themes.
Okay.
So as well as getting a delicious bottle of wine, maybe someone would pick up that bottle and go, what was that winemaker on about with that imagery?
So how do the Temple Bruer wines differ from the Switch wines as far as how you're making the wine? So you are the winemaker, or is David still very heavily involved?
At Temple Bruer, we have 3 winemakers. So myself, I've got another winemaker, and David also.
Right.
So we share the role.
Sure.
And it's very much...
It's very collaborative?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you kind of know what you're going for. You're going for, okay, we're going to make a preservative-free Petit Verdot.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like it's a really small team.
Right.
So we can bounce ideas off each other really well.
But is it being made for the market kind of thing?
Well...
As in like, it's like, okay, we think that Petit Verdot at this price point, we want to do a preservative-free. Let's do it?
I don't think it... Well...
Or do they kind of create themselves?
They kind of create themselves, and they evolve themselves as well.
Right.
For sure. The wines have definitely changed since 2006 was our first preservative-free wine.
Yeah.
And they've evolved so much in so short a time in terms of their own style.
Yeah.
So they do end up creating themselves, but... of course there's going to be feedback off of the market. There has to be.
Yeah.
So, because we want to make wines that are delicious.
Right.
And that people love to drink, and people love to drink every day. So
playing devil's advocate, a lot of the kind of the criticisms around sort of preservative-free wines is that they don't travel well and they don't keep. Would you agree with that to a certain extent?
I think it's on a wine-by-wine basis, really.
Okay.
Some vintages keep better than others. And, I don't think there's any sort of hard and fast rules about it.
How do you work in the winery to try and help the wine have its own sort of natural preservative so that you don't have to add an SO2 or sulfite?
Yeah, well, we're very careful about how we move the wines. Actually, we try not to handle the wines a lot at all. That's one of the most important things.
Using a lot of gravity, that kind of thing?
No, we just literally don't move them.
Right.
So we don't filter them, and we don't, move them around the winery a lot. So trying not to expose them to oxygen.
But is the idea that they are consumed within the year of their release?
Well, that's what they're made for, because we want to get them into bottle within a screw cap and basically drunk. So that said, I still want them to be able to have, a shelf life so that they taste delicious if someone's taken them home. And
well, that is kind of the unfortunate situation, is that you don't know once they're out in market, whether it's in a wine shop or on a restaurant wine list or in someone's house, you don't know how it's then going to be transported and stored and stuff like that. So, it must be hard to kind of think about that and sort of know, well, we can't factor in every kind of
No,
scenario.
but you never can. And I mean, SO2,
Very true.
sulfur dioxide is a really good buffer against a lot of things that upset, wine, the flavour profile of a wine.
Yeah.
But in ordinary conditions, like I've never ever seen any issues coming back with the Temple Bruer stuff about, bad wines. But,
yeah. So how did you kind of start making decisions about how you wanted to make the switch wines? You said you kind of wanted to make different wines. You wanted to be a little bit freer to sort of express.
So I wanted to sort of experiment with smaller type equipment and being able to make the wines a lot more hands-on.
Sure.
And so that's, my wines, the switch wines are really hands-on made wines.
So when you say hands-on, what do you mean by that?
Like as in, like a lot more plunging, small batches, so half-time batches.
Yeah.
Basically being able to look at the whole parcel really closely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you started with a Pinot Noir in 2010. Mm-hmm. When did you actually take that to market? If you did take it to market.
Yeah, I did. I'm trying to think back.
What were people's impressions of that first wine?
I think they were good, though I think my wines have changed a lot since that, and I've learnt a lot. I suppose when I first made that wine, I kind of put a lot of pressure on myself to make it conform into something.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know what that was.
Yeah.
So, and now it's kind of like I'm not so concerned with that, and I'm like allowing myself to let the wines to be what they want to be.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of freedom in doing that, in making wine that way.
Freedom, but also anxiety as well.
Nah.
And sort of stepping back. But I guess it's a question of, understanding, observation, and, and like the better you kind of understand and observe, then the less intervention you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So how has the wine and has the kind of the range of wines evolved in the last 5 years or so?
Well, I'm making a lot more wines, but a lot more smaller parcels as well. So allowing myself the freedom to play, basically, and to, if I see, a little bit of fruit that's available, to just grab it and have a play. So, it's a lot more fun with what I do with the wines.
Yeah, and like that kind of fun definitely comes through in the labels and some of the names. So tell me about like some of these other wines. You've got Wallflower. Mm-hmm. Was that always, how many vintages of Wallflower have you made?
That's the third vintage. That's so 2015 is the third vintage of Wallflower.
And has it always been a blend of white varieties?
It's traditionally been a blend of Viognier and Trebbiano. Okay. But the idea behind Wallflower is not so much about the varieties that go into it. It's about the wine style.
Sure.
So that's Wallflower, I suppose, has always had an element of skin contact, white fermentation. Yep. In it. So. Okay. Yeah.
And Flow Tempranillo. Mm-hmm. You've made that for a few years?
Yeah, so that's a second year of Flow. Okay. And Flow, the idea behind Flow is basically trying to make a wine in a different way that's kind of outside of the box of what I normally make a wine in. Yep. Yeah, so just thinking of different ways to do it.
And Tempranillo is a variety. Is there much Tempranillo planted in like Langhorne Creek? Or that kind of in the Fleurieu Peninsula?
I'm not sure. I mean, I kind of only look out for certified organic.
Right. Okay. That's the first thing that it has to tick that box, and then you'll go. Okay. Sure. Now what grapes have you got?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's definitely the most important thing for me, and by not boxing myself into an idea of a style or a kind of wine from a certain region, like I have a lot of flexibility and freedom to be able to make a whole different kind of wine.
Yeah. Like for example, the Eden Valley Pinot Noirs. Pinot Noir in South Australia is sort of definitely most closely associated with the Adelaide Hills. Mm-hmm. Eden Valley is considered sort of a Shiraz Riesling region, but these are Pinots that are unmistakably Pinot, but they're still quite different expressions for Pinot.
Yeah, for sure. So
So what sort of wines would you like to make in the future? Are you just going to keep sort of keeping an eye out for organic fruit that's going?
I think I probably make too many wines.
How many do you make?
Ones already.
How many have you got currently?
Oh God. Sometimes I don't like to add it up because there's a lot. But like I say, some of them,
but they're small batch
some of
wines,
them they're only 20 dozen, and that doesn't count surely.
And you've always got something new to show people, I guess.
Yeah, and something new to drink. So
yeah, of course. Well, like in tasting the wines earlier on, I'm pretty excited. They're very different wines, which is always exciting to see. I think there's a lot of fatigue with a lot of people with wine from Australia because it's sort of like, okay, another Clare Valley Riesling, great. Okay, another Yarra Valley Chardonnay, great. But when they're different like this, then it's sort of people start to think about, well, what is quality and do you like it and what is Australian wine at the end of the day?
For sure.
So it's exciting to sort of see people changing things a little bit. But well, Vanessa, look, I hope at some point you do get to sort of spend some time over in Europe working some vintages. But thank you very much for making some time to be on the podcast.
No problem.
And of course to be on YouTube. So I guess this episode is a sort of a companion piece to the Let's Taste video when tasting the wines through. So definitely, if you listen to this podcast, go and watch the Let's Taste video on YouTube with Vanessa and her Switch wines.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
And thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Vincast, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little bonus episode. I've been James Scaresbrook, otherwise known as the Intrepid Wino. And as always, you can follow me on social media. On Instagram and Twitter, I am at IntrepidWino. On Twitter, you can also follow the podcast at the Vincast. On facebook.com/IntrepidWino is where you'll find my Facebook page. And don't forget that YouTube channel is Intrepid Wino, where I put all of my Let's Taste videos and some more videos will be coming up very soon. Hopefully they'll be of interest to you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and give it a like and a comment on any of the videos that you enjoy. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, podcasting app, Stitcher, Player FM, any kind of basically an app or a website that hosts podcasts. And when you hit that subscribe button, make sure that you then go and give me a rating and a review, because it really does give me some fantastic feedback, but also is a great way to promote the podcast to potential listeners and also potential guests. Of course, you can find all that information at IntrepidWino.com, my website, as well as lots of different writings that I've done in the past and will do in the future, no doubt. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you next time. Bye.